live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now live.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6 o'clock. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses, and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete. Your mic is not on, my friend.
Yep, forgot to turn on my mic. I turned on your mic.
There you go.
That's a
Well,
good thing.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
But we need this back and forth a little bit, so we need your
Yes.
mic on as well. It is very soggy out there this morning, folks. It was
Good
pouring.
soaker.
Yeah, it's a good soaker. It was pouring when I came in. I'm really hoping that it gets it out of its system right now because we have fitness signups at the Senior Center for the spring classes starting at 8:45 this morning. They'll go from 8:45 to 9:15. That's curbside. So for those of you who will be signing up for any of the chair yoga classes with Terry Summers, as well as Carol Palmer's Totally Fun Fitness classes, signups are today. They begin today. They don't end today. But, when a class is full, a class is full. So most people like to get their registration early. It's curbside, so you will be in the comfort of your car, nice and dry. And Mary Lou will be on the comfort of underneath the porch, and I will be the one running out there getting soaking wet.
It drops to
I'm
50-50
hoping-
by about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping, and I don't mind like showery. We're used to that. We've done this curbside thing for 4 years now, but I'm hoping it's not like it was when I came in just now, which is just absolutely pouring. So, Pete,
Yeah, it's going to go from 100% down to about 50 or
so that's
50%.
fine, and a little spotty thing. We don't care about that.
Showery.
Yeah, showery's okay. Showery, I don't mind. Downpour, I'm not so hot on that.
Yeah, right.
But, I've done it before. So, Pete, here's what I need for you to check for me. So, my understanding is that it is going to be showery throughout the day.
Yes.
And then we're going to get rain tonight, but then the temperature is going to drop considerably because right now it's
as the rain shuts off, it's going to get windy and the temperature is going to drop.
Okay, and so the $1 million question, because tomorrow is an AARP tax day at the Senior Center, and I do the curbside thing all over again in the morning. So the question is it going to dry out before the temperature drops, or are we going to be dealing with a sheet of ice in the morning?
0%. Well, the
the
rain's
question.
going to stop by midnight.
Okay.
And then it's going to drop. By 5 a.m., it's going to be like 28 degrees.
Okay, and so that is the big question.
I don't think it'll be icy because it's going to be
You don't think
windy as well.
Right.
And
Well,
that'll
that's
dry
what I'm
things
hoping.
out.
That's what I'm hoping for. As long
We're
as
talking
the
like 20
wind-
mile an hour winds.
Okay.
Sustained, not peak winds.
Yeah.
Sustained winds.
Yep.
That should pretty much dry stuff out.
Okay.
It's
That
gonna
would be
blow.
great because I don't want to have to deal with ice in the morning and, rescheduling stuff because we have now we are in the full swing of AARP taxes. So now they can accommodate up to 30 a day, the number of volunteers that we have, and we are doing about 30 a day now. So, if we have to reschedule, it gets a little wonky.
Yep. I got
So
you.
hopefully we will not have to do that. Thank you for that report, Pete. So, Pete, you're going to love this. Today is National Public Sleeping Day. And with the rain, it's perfect. Are you tired? This is my thing. Are you tired? If you are, go ahead and take a nap today. February 28th is National Public Sleeping Day. It is a day for anyone and everyone to take a nap. On a blanket at the beach, at the park, in the movie theater, on a bus, train, or subway, or any other public place that may work for you. I'm not so sure about at your desk. I think you'd have to clear that with your boss.
Right.
However, it may not. Oh, there you go. Here's my next sentence. However, it may not be a good idea to take a nap at your desk during work. Okay, so we have different types of naps. Now, we've had this discussion in my house because I live with nappers. Gary is a napper.
I don't mind napping either. They're
Grace is a
strategic.
napper. Yes, so here are the different categories of naps because there are differences, and I totally get this. So the power nap is approximately 10 to 20 minutes long, and it can give you a boost of energy to get us through the rest of the day. It also doesn't leave us drowsy like some longer naps might, and will also allow us to fall asleep at a decent time at night. So that's the power nap, just short, quick,
Right.
15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, the hangover is about 30 minutes long, 10 minutes too many, leaving us loopy and wanting just to stay asleep. We will snap out of it and feel much like we had a power nap, but it may take a bit more effort before we feel those benefits. The Brainiac nap lasts about 60 minutes. I'm watching this truck like literally almost come through the window. Holy smokes. Okay. The Brainiac lasts about 60 minutes and includes the deepest sleep. While we may feel a little grogginess upon waking, much like the hangover, our ability to recall facts, names, and faces will be improved. This type of nap may be the best nap after a round of studying or before a big test. The California King nap lasts about 90 minutes, so an hour and a half, and is typically a full cycle of sleep. It will also include REM or a dream stage. This nap avoids the hangover like the power nap does and improves creative thinking and motor memory, but nighttime sleep may be elusive depending on when you take your hour and a half nap. You know, if you take it late in the afternoon, don't think you're going to bed at 10 o'clock because you're not going to be tired. Good husbands have been keen on these benefits long since the invention of the shopping mall. They are not strangers to public sleeping or the power nap. It may be something the modern non-napping woman should consider. Some employers have begun to recognize the value of a nap. Studies have shown certain types of naps fuel the brain and recharge our batteries. Naps can improve productivity, decrease health risks, and improve morale. Employers such as Google, AOL, Nike offer sleep pods or sleep rooms to their employees to reap these benefits. Excuse me, I felt that sneeze coming up.
Sleep pods, huh?
Yeah, sleep pods. So listen, this is so cool. Do you remember one personnel director ago, so that would have been Robert Bishop, because we've been through many in the city since you and I have been here,
Right,
Pete.
yeah.
But Robert Bishop left the city to take a job up in the Burlington, Vermont area. And I can't remember the name of the company, but one of the things that was really exciting, I mean, he really wanted to be, he had family up there and all that kind of stuff. So that was why he left, not necessarily to take this job, but he managed to land a job that he was really, really excited about because it was a smaller company, but he was telling me about it, they were very new age with their thinking of benefits for employees. So way beyond like health insurance and all that stuff. They had sleep pods, Pete. He said they had 2 rooms where, that were just quiet and kind of, meditative, and employees could go in there. You had your, for a certain period of time, you couldn't live in there, but you could go in there for whatever it was, 15 minutes a shift or something like that, to either, take a nap or just kind of chill out, listen to some, sort of new age kind of music. I thought that was really, really neat.
There are times when I've skipped lunch and
Yep.
went out in my car, found a hidey hole, and taken a power nap.
Yep.
Set your alarm
Yep.
and you take a power nap.
Yep.
I've just needed to.
Yep. And it's really funny. I typically...
I'm not happy about it, and I'm not proud of it,
Yeah,
but
but
there's
it's-
days
hey.
when you just need to do it.
Oh my God, Pete, I totally understand that. It's funny because Gary's been a napper since we were in college, and not like a long one, more or less. He used to do power naps when he was working full time. Now I think he's more with, he'll lay down for like a half an hour, 45 minutes. I find that sometimes a power nap, that quick 15-minute, is perfect for me, just to get me through the hump of the day. If I get into the longer ones, I feel like trash when I wake up. I just feel I'm too sleepy, and I eventually do get my motor going again. But by the time I do, I'm like, it just takes too long. Yeah, I've already lost it. But yeah, those little power naps. Pete. There are times where I'm at my desk. If I'm moving around, I'm okay. But if I've gotten up early, like a day like today, I mean, by 1 o'clock this afternoon, I'll be 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's like, if I'm moving, I'm fine. But
especially if you didn't have a good night's sleep the night before.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so here's your, today is nap day, and with the rain, well, it was funny because I had to pick up Charlie from her dad's last night, and it was about 8:15 or so when I picked her up, and it had just started, raining. And boy, I'll tell you, she got into that car seat, and I always play sort of, exactly. I don't think we were out of Isaac's driveway, and she was It was really quiet in the back. And he had said to me, she's been kind of fussy, so she may be crying the whole way home. And I said, okay, well, we got the radio on. I put on some really nice soft music. I didn't hear a peep. Not one peep. She was
Probably fussy because she was tired.
Well, could have been. But boy, that rain on the roof of the car. Oh boy, that was perfect. Just perfect. So, good weekend, Pete. What'd you do? What's going on here?
This weekend was work, and like I said, we've been dealing with family issues, trying to figure out stuff with my cousin and things like that, and just getting that place ready. Whether do you sell it, do you rent it?
Yeah.
You know, what do you do? Like,
So this is a home.
now it's like going because she's not coming back.
Right.
Now it's going through the house and just trying to figure out, what's what.
Right.
What do you have, a tag sale or?
Yep, exactly.
Do
Do
you
you
give
do
stuff away?
an estate sale? Do you do? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
Yep.
because she
Yep.
doesn't need the asset right away, but she
Yep.
probably will down the road.
Sure, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like,
Yeah.
what do you do?
Yep. Big house?
And
Like
now-
how many rooms are we talking about?
It's a 3-story.
It's a big house.
It's one of those classic Forest Park houses.
Yeah.
It's just huge. I mean, I didn't even realize. I knew there was a second floor, and when you're a kid, you don't really go to the second floor because that's where everybody sleeps.
Right. Yep.
And everything's done on the first floor.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize there was a third floor.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yep.
Like,
Well, and
thankfully, there's not a ton of stuff up on the third floor.
yeah.
It's kind of open. It wasn't really used as an attic.
So that's
But
what
the
I was
other
going to
two
say. Is it
floors-
like an attic-y third floor, or is it a?
Oh, no, you could live in
you
there.
can have a room in there. Yeah, my grandparents
there's
had a
several
house like
rooms in
that.
there.
Yep.
You could like if you had like an uncle or something, an in-law apartment. It doesn't have a kitchen or anything. Doesn't have a
Yep.
bathroom, but
My
you could sleep up there.
Yep, my grandparents had a house like that, and my brother. This was in northern New Jersey, and my grandparents lived not that far outside of New York City. But my brother was a student at Montclair State at that time, Montclair State College, now Montclair State University, which was probably less than a half an hour from my grandparents' house. And distance-wise, it was shorter, but with traffic and everything.
Sure.
But the third floor of my grandparents' house was beautiful. My grandfather finished it off. It was a regular room. I mean, it wasn't like you had to, stoop your head or
Right,
anything.
no, yeah,
It
yeah. I
was
was
like a
walking around,
regular
yeah.
room.
Yep.
Again, as you said, Pete, there was no bathroom or kitchen up there. That was, the bathroom on the second floor. They had a full bath and the kitchen downstairs. But, I mean, it had an area. My grandfather put a built-in desk. Like, there was a nook in there, so he built this desk for Mike. He had all kinds of storage. There were 2-seater closets upstairs. I mean, it was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it was, and he had his own space. It was just perfect. And he didn't have to pay room and board at college. It saved my parents money. And it was ideal.
these
Those
beautiful
old
houses,
houses,
yeah.
yes, yep. The same with this one. I've seen pictures of the outside of the house of.
The funny thing was, I put a couple of lights. We're rigging lights for the house.
Yeah,
to keep it seem like it's occupied.
absolutely, absolutely.
So I put in a power block for one of them to turn on one of the lights they have in the living room, and all of a sudden I'm starting to smell smoke.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, it wasn't anything electrical, right?
No. Oh, okay.
It was dust buildup on the bulb, and they hadn't turned the light on in
my
forever, and it was starting to smoke.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, oh
Yeah.
boy, that's
that
not good.
I wouldn't have even thought of that. I mean, my first thing was, oh my God, electrical.
No, it
those
didn't
old
smell
houses.
electrical. It smelled just like
Smoky.
smoke, and
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, did you crank the heat up or something? That's because that was my thought. Like maybe
Yeah.
a heater kicked on, and
Yep.
I'm smelling that, and like, no,
my
it was
goodness.
dust on the bulb.
Unbelievable.
Well, yeah.
So lots of projects. This is something that older adults face all the time and families face all the time. Now we've got this house, and it's not just the structure, it's all the stuff, it's the contents, of the house. And
Well, and I'm trying to go through we're going through the same thing a little bit with not the dementia part of it, but with my girlfriend's father. He's getting older, and his mobility's getting.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to start planning for this,
yes, please do.
John.
Yep.
You got to start planning for
Yep.
this, and he's resistant because he doesn't want to. I like it here. I like it in my house. Well, that's
Right.
fine.
Right.
but now you got to bring in services.
Right.
You get the resistance.
Yeah,
like,
I know. But he
will not go. He's in his 80s, right? I'm not going to that senior center. That's for the old people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know. I hear it
you're
all the
an old
time.
people.
Yeah, I know. I hear it all the time. My grandfather told me that. My grandfather
John,
on
you're
my
old
father's
people.
side, yeah, he used to tell me that, and it cracked me up because at the time that my grandfather was telling me this, and my parents says he was in his 90s. I mean, like mid-90s. And so, he's like, well, and he used the expression at one point, when I get old. And I said to him, what define,
how much
define
older?
old? Well, his definition, he was born in 1899. And so his big thing was, well, when I hit the year 2000, so I've now spanned 3 different centuries. That was
cow.
that was his definition. He didn't make it, but he did make it to, like 98 or 98, I think.
Wow.
He passed when he was 98. So yeah, long
And I'm sure there's lots of people dealing with that.
Absolutely.
I've just never had to deal with it. And I'm only on the periphery of it.
Right. And you know what I tell my seniors, and I, as we're having this discussion, it's probably time to bring back this workshop. But, I say to them, staying in your own home is one thing, but can you at least downsize in place so that,
I remember we doing that.
Right.
Years ago.
And so even if you end up staying in your own home until you die, which is what most people want to do, that's great, but still downsize in place and scale back so that your family doesn't have to go through 3 stories or 2 stories and a basement and a garage and everything else of all this stuff.
Yep.
And plus it'll just be so much safer for people because you won't have clutter all over the place. You'll have what you need to stay there. So we might have to.
I was just sitting there shaking my head, just walking
back
into the pantry.
Oh, I know. I know.
It's like,
yeah.
First of all, the house has a pantry. That's
Yeah.
novel nowadays,
Yes.
anyways.
Yes.
And the fact that it's still so much stuff in that
Yeah.
small. Like,
It's
I remember some of that
stocked.
from when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was that stocked when I was a kid.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep, it's probably time to revisit that whole downsizing and placing. And we were just having this discussion with one of the staff members and one of the newer staff members. And Sandra was saying, "Oh my gosh, Tina does this thing. She has handouts." And I mean, I still have seniors coming back and saying, "I have the handout," and I did it. I color coded the handout, so it's like I have the pink handout. I've been working off of that. So
I think that's a good topic for one of Harry's Council on Aging presents.
yeah. Oh yeah, that would be a good one. Yep. Absolutely. All right. On that note, no, I think that's great.
Yeah,
that's
no,
awesome. All right. So get some ideas, which is great. So it is 6:07, almost 6:18. So we're going to say it's 6:18. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, on WCPC cable channel 15. So because it is National Public Sleeping Day, they really should call this like National Napping Day because that's really what it's all about. We're going to listen to Ray Orbison singing Sleepy Hollow. We'll be back.
There's a place I call Sleepy Hollow, where I go when you're not around. There's a brook running clear in the meadow. I lose my blues in its sound. The wind and the trees in the hollow whisper secrets of life in my ear. When I lay down in their shadows, I dream that you're still here. The bubbling, babbling brook is your laughter. The wind blowing softly, your touch. I've found the one thing I'm after. Your love means so much. Oh, until you say that you love me.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:21. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio the first hour here with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
And just to let people know, little coming attraction. So second hour, Jen Jafune will be with us doing our Food for Thought segment. And of course, we are wrapping up American Heart Month. So Jen's topic will be heart, nutrition and heart health. She'll specifically kind of do a deep dive into blood pressure and cholesterol and how is that related to heart health and what can we do about that nutritionally. And so it's kind of a follow-up to the discussion that Dr. Akinyele Lovelace and I had last week on the show. So we're just paying attention to your heart this month. So today is February 28th, some of our famous birthdays. It is the birthday of the late Zero Mostel. Zero Mostel, my older seniors will remember him as an actor, comedian, and singer. He was born on this date in 1915 in Brooklyn, New York. He died in our world. He died fairly young. He died at the age of 62 back on September 8th, 1977. But Zero Mostel is best known for his portrayal of comic characters such as Tevye on stage in Fiddler on the Roof, Pseudolus on stage and on screen in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and Max Bialystock in the original film version of Mel Brooks' The Producers. That was done back in 1967. Zero Mostel was born Samuel Joel Mostel. He wasn't christened, Zero, to a family of Jewish Orthodox immigrants in New York City's Lower East Side. According to his brother, their mother coined the nickname Zero, noting that if he continued to do poorly in school, he would amount to a zero. So how's that for parenting 101? After dropping out of graduate school, Zero Mostel joined the Public Works of Art project, which paid him a stipend to teach art. But part of his duty on the job was to give gallery talks at New York's museums. Leading groups of students through the many paintings, Mostel could not suppress his comedic nature, and his lectures were noted less for their artistic content than for his sense of humor. As his reputation grew, he was invited to entertain at parties and other social occasions. Labor union social clubs followed, where Mostel mixed his comic routine with social commentary. These performances played a large role in his eventual blacklisting in the next decade, and he was blacklisted mostly in the 40s for some of his sort of leftist political views, shall we say.
All right.
Zero Mostel earned his first Tony Award for his performance in the Broadway play Rhinoceros. In 1962, he began work on the role of Pseudolus in the Broadway musical A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. The show was a great commercial success, running 964 performances and conferring star status on Zero Mostel. He also won a Tony Award for Best Actor in a Musical for that role. The film version was produced in 1966, also starring Zero Mostel and Phil Silvers as his sidekick. In 1964, Mostel landed one of his most famous roles as Tevye in the musical Fiddler on the Roof. Mostel's most memorable performance earned him yet another Tony. So happy birthday to the late great. I think he was hysterical, Zero Mostel. Have you seen a funny thing happen on the way to the Forum, either on stage or in the movies, Pete?
I don't think so.
Oh God, it is absolutely hilarious. It's great. I mean, I've seen all of the versions of it. The Majestic did it on stage, probably. Oh my gosh, it had to be at least probably 10 or 15 years ago, and they did a fabulous job. It was really, really good. All right, today is also the birthday of the late Brian Jones, musician, songwriter, and record producer, born on this date in 1942 in England. He died very young. He died at the age of 27 on July 3rd, 1969. So Brian Jones was the founder, rhythm lead guitarist, and original leader of the Rolling Stones. In 1962, he formed the Rolling Stones with pianist Ian Stewart, singer Mick Jagger, and Jagger's friend and guitarist Keith Richards. Bassist Bill Wyman and jazz-influenced drummer Charlie Watts soon joined the band. Initially a guitarist, Brian Jones went on to sing backup vocals and played a wide variety of instruments on Rolling Stones recordings and in concerts. After he founded the Rolling Stones as a British blues outfit and gave the band its name, Jones's fellow band members, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, began to take over the band's musical direction, especially after they became a successful songwriting team. When Brian Jones developed alcohol and drug problems, his performance in the studio became increasingly unreliable, leading to a diminished role within the band he had founded. In June of 1969, the Rolling Stones dismissed Jones, and guitarist Mick Taylor took his place in the group. Less than a month later, Jones died by drowning in the swimming pool at his home at Cotchford Farm, East Sussex. His death was referenced in songs by many other pop bands. In 1989, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of the Rolling Stones. So happy birthday to the late Brian Jones. Okay, so we'll do a few more birthdays in a bit, but I do want to mention that this month's Voice of Experience newsletter has hit the streets, the March edition. So please make sure that you get it. In March, we always since 2013. So we are now in our 11th year of recognizing our Retire the Fire program. So March is all about fire safety, falls prevention, and we will be we'll be talking about that on air, obviously, over the next 4 Wednesdays or 5 Wednesdays, however many we have in March. But there is certainly information in the newsletter. So, please tune into that. And we'll be going over some of the highlights of March and what's happening at the Senior Center in a bit. But first, I have to do, we have to do our update on our February calendar raffle. The Friends of the Westfield Senior Center we're rounding out our Beat the Winter Blahs calendar. So our winners, since we last spoke last Wednesday, we have Elena Clark won a $25 gift card to Two Rivers Burrito. And I have to say it was a riot. Oh, I know what it was. Elena Clark came through the tax line that morning, Thursday morning, to drop off her taxes for AARP. I forgot she was on the list. So when she pulled up, I said to her, "Oh my gosh, you're a winner of, you're one of the calendar winners. You won today." I got to tell you, she was so excited. I said, "Stay right here. Let me run in and get your gift card." So I did that, but she was all excited. So Elena won that. Our last $50 Friday special, and that was a $50 gift card to Walmart. So each of the 4 Fridays, courtesy of Dr. And Mrs. Akinyele Lovelace. So Christina Lovelace and her husband Akinyele gave us the Friday gift cards, the special ones. That was won by Pat Hills. So that was exciting. Pat is a retiree. She used to work at Bay State Noble Hospital. And with Lynn Hills, so not related, but, and Pat is also a regular at the lunch line. So she was pretty excited about that. On Saturday, we had a $25 gift card to the Summer House that Sarah Miller won. Sunday, it was $25 gift card to Pizza Town, and that was Tamara Rodriguez who won that. Monday, $25 gift card to Circuit Coffee was won by Sally Gagnon. Yesterday was $25 to the Shortstop Bar and Grill, and that was won by Linda Monahan. And today's big winner, which is a $35 gift card to Applebee's, is Nicholas Rosselli. So Mr. Rosselli and his lovely wife, and they've been married for over 60 years now.
Wow.
Yep. I call them the family with the red vehicles because they have a beautiful red pickup truck that Mr. Rosselli drives, and then she has a red sedan, and they always look like they came right out of the car wash. Like, I don't know what they do to these cars and how they get from wherever they live to the senior center, but there's never a spot on them. They're just beautiful. They're a lovely couple. I don't think I've ever seen, no, I take that back. When she picks up the meals, she's by herself, and that's not very often. They're usually together with Mr. Rosselli driving in the truck. Well, guess what? You won a gift card to Applebee's today. So we're pretty excited about that. We have one more winner because, of course, it's a leap year, Pete. So we have an extra day tomorrow.
All right.
One more winner. I will let you know next week who that is when we draw the name tomorrow morning. So that's exciting. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So I have a little story to tell you about this song. So I wanted to do a song in honor of the birthday of Zero Mostel. So I chose a song from Fiddler on the Roof. This song is really special to me, and for many years I couldn't play it because I couldn't play it without crying. But when I got married, my father came to me and said he loved this song. He loved Fiddler on the Roof. He loved A Funny Thing Happened. He loved Zero Mostel. And he said to me, this is the song I want to dance. And we waltzed to this song. It's Sunrise, Sunset. It's a beautiful song. So in honor of my dad and in honor of who has passed and in honor of Zero Mostel, Sunrise, Sunset will be back.
Is this the little girl I carried? Is this the little boy at play?
I don't remember growing older. When did they?
When did she get to be a beauty? When did he grow to be this tall?
Wasn't it yesterday when they were small?
Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days. Seedlings turn overnight to sunflowers, blossoming even as we gaze.
Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years. One season following another, laden with happiness and tears.
What words of wisdom can I give them? How can I help to ease their way?
Now they must learn from one another, day by day.
They look so natural together.
Just like two newlyweds should be.
Is there a canopy in store for me? Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning. I got a question for you.
Yes,
Are
lay it
you
on
a
me.
basketball fan?
I am.
So this week is apparently basketball week on WCPC because Harry Rock has St. Mary's basketball coming in, and they won their league, and they have a 1,000-point scorer.
I am so happy to
that's-
hear that.
So that's that. And then
Okay.
Coach Sutter has landed an interview with Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN.
Okay, awesome.
So we're talking NBA on Thursday.
Oh, wow. That's
This is
awesome.
wild.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Crazy week around
Yeah.
here.
Well, and you know, we're heading into March Madness. And if you recall, Pete, way back in the old days when we were doing this as a radio show only up at the college, and we had Brian, I will never forget, I had Dr. Sutton on. I had Brian Sutton on as my guest. And I don't remember what the heck we were supposed to be talking about, but we were at the beginning of March Madness. And Brian whips out his sheet with his bracketology, and I whip out mine, which I happen to have because I was working on it with one of my seniors, and we're going back and forth. And, you know, we're supposed to be talking about whatever Bay State Noble Hospital wanted us to talk about that day, and we're talking all about basketball. And we eventually got to the topic at hand, but, you know how it is with Brian.
Oh, yeah.
He's like all over the map. So Pete, I have to tell you what happened this weekend. It was kind of really cool. This was on Friday night. The rest of the weekend was just, But Friday night, Grace and Charlie was still awake, and Grace was Gary was downstairs, and we have a finished basement, so we turned into a pub. So he was down in the pub watching TV. Grace was on the first floor with Charlie, and I think she was nursing or whatever they were doing. And then I was upstairs, probably doing laundry. Well, all of a sudden, we started to hear, we didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a car backfiring or something. I mean, I'm going, what the heck is that? So I yelled down to Grace, and I said, Grace, do you hear that? And she said, yeah. She said, you know what, Mom? She goes, I think she goes, to me, it sounds like somebody's shooting off fireworks, like in their backyard. And I said, who would be shooting off
fireworks? You guys missed it?
Fireworks. No, let me tell you what happened. I said, who would be shooting off fireworks in February, like in their backyard? So and to me, it sounded like it was coming from the front of the house. So I ran to the front of the house. I'm upstairs. So I ran into the nursery. I don't see anything. Grace went to the back of the house. Of course, we had all the blinds closed by then because it was dark. And so she goes, oh, my God, Mom, they're real fireworks. And I said, what? She goes, go to the back of the house. So I'm upstairs. I go to the master bedroom. Well,
you guys consider yourself Westfieldians?
Well, no. You know what happened, Pete, was that I think here's the story. So I live in West Springfield. It's West Springfield's 250th anniversary. I knew that they were planning a big winter festival to kick off the 250th, and I knew it was going to be in February. I thought that it was going to be, and I think the original plan was for Mitney Park because they were going to do ice sculptures and snow sculptures. Well, my recollection was that got canceled because we don't have any snow and it really hasn't been cold enough. What I didn't realize was that I don't know whether this was in place of or a separate event, but they ended up doing...
It was actually on the birthday.
Yeah, so they did it at Clark Field. Well, Clark Field is a football field behind the high school, which is literally about... Well, as the crow flies, it's about 3 minutes from our house. It's right behind the Irish Cultural Center, by the crow flies, if you go through the woods. So Clark Field is so close. So they had like a winter festival type thing with vendors and stuff. And then it culminated with fireworks, which of course, when you're doing it in February, you can do the fireworks at 7:45 because
People were here
it's dark.
People here were, what's that booming thing going on? I'm like,
I have to tell you, Pete.
does anybody not pay attention? Like, they were promoting it on social media.
Well, but I don't think they did a great job of promoting it in the West Springfield Record, which is our little,
Gotcha.
weekly thing. And I think, they had pictures in the reminder and stuff, but I think it should have been way better promoted in the local paper. But anyway, be that as it may, we, from the master bedroom window, we had the perfect view, the absolute perfect view. So Grace brought Charlie upstairs. Her back was bothering her. So I'm holding Charlie. Grace and I are at one window. I ran downstairs because in the basement, Gary was absolutely clueless because, you can't really hear or see anything. I said, Gary, we have an amazing fireworks show going on. And it was as if, honestly, Pete, from that master bedroom window, it looked like that my next door neighbor would be like they were shooting them off. Grace said, Mom, it looks like they're shooting them off next door. I mean, it was so close. I got to tell you, it had to be at least 20 minutes. And I'm holding Charlie. She didn't move. Her eyes were wide open. She's 7 months old today. She was absolutely mesmerized. And we had turned off all the lights in the bedroom. So Grace was trying to she took some video of the fireworks, but she was trying to get a picture of Charlie's face, but she said, Mom, I can't get it because it's too dark in the room, but we didn't want to turn the lights on because she was fixated. She didn't move. I swear she didn't blink for like 20 minutes. They were absolutely fabulous fireworks. I mean, they were just spectacular. And it just reminded me of when Westfield did the 350th and we were all over at the Boys and Girls Club and it was first night and we did the fireworks on New Year's Eve over there with Harry Rock and the whole 350th team. It was just so wonderful. What a great way to kick off the weekend. And I'm just so glad that the baby was awake. We were all home. Because Grace was like, she goes, man, I wish they would do the Springfield fireworks over in Clark Field. She goes, we have the absolute best view. I mean, it was just amazing.
Maybe they'll move the West Springfield fireworks. Maybe they'll start doing them on the 4th of July over there.
That would be kind of nice if they did that. It was just fabulous. So what a great way to start out the weekend. So thank you to West Springfield. If I have a chance, I do want to write a letter to the editor in the paper, but I think the committee, the 250th committee, did it right. So that was a great way to start out the weekend. All right, let's do another birthday here. It is February 28th, and on this day in 1931 in Mount Kisco, New York, the late Gavin MacLeod was born, actor who lived to the ripe old age of 90. He passed away in 2021. Gavin MacLeod's first regular television role began in 1962 as Joseph Happy Haynes on McHale's Navy. But unlike his character, he was unhappy with the role's limitations. MacLeod later described Haynes as not much of a character who had 2 lines a week and was sometimes simply used as a prop. He said they used to film McHale's Navy out on a back lot. And he said sometimes they would use MacLeod's character to cover something they didn't want to see on the back of the lot. Those were back in the days, Pete, before you could do all the magic that you do here. So MacLeod's second breakout role was as kind-hearted TV news writer Maurice Slaughter on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and that show ran from 1970 to 1977, and it won him lasting fame and 2 Golden Globe Award nominations. His starring role, and here it comes, I knew Pete was going to have it queued up.
Had to set me up for that one.
His starring role as Captain Steubing on The Love Boat, his next television series, was broadcast in 90 countries worldwide between the years 1977 and 1986, spanning 9 seasons. His work on that show earned him 3 Golden Globe nominations. Looking back, in an interview, this is what Gavin MacLeod said. He said he had such fond memories of the experience. He said, we went out 6 weeks a year on a princess ship. We were filming in Mexico for years and then started traveling to places like China, England, and Japan. We had guest stars every week. He said, I was in actor's heaven. I mean, It doesn't get any better than that.
6 weeks on a ship.
Are you kidding me? MacLeod ultimately became the global ambassador for Princess Cruises in 1986. He played a role in ceremonies launching many of the line's new ships. And he
was their captain. I mean, he was the face of the place.
He was the face of the place. And they said, I believe it was his 80th birthday party. They did a big party for him on one of the Princess Cruise lines, and he said it was fabulous. So happy birthday to the late Gavin MacLeod. That was he just played those roles, that one and Murray Slaughter on Mary Tyler Moore.
Yep.
He was just like the all-around good guy, nice guy that everybody loved. He
I will be going on a love boat in less than 2 months.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that's right. You guys are
Princess Cruise out of Fort Lauderdale.
Yep. And where are you sailing to?
Like Western Caribbean.
Okay. Oh, that'll be so exciting, Pete. All right. Well, we'll expect lots of pictures and all that kind of good stuff. All right. Let's go with a break. It is 6:46. You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15 in honor of the birthday of Rolling Stone Brian Jones. We're going to listen to Mother's Little Helper. Brian Jones incorporated sitar into the track's composition, while Mick Jagger discusses the downsides of drug use, mainly barbiturates, in this 1966 single. We will be back.
What a drag it is getting old. Kids are different today. I hear every mother say, mother needs something today to calm her down. And though she's not really ill, there's a little yellow pill. She goes running for the shelter of her mother's little helper, and it helps her on her way, gets her through her busy day. Things are different today. I hear every mother say, cooking fresh food for her husband's just a drag. So she buys an instant cake, and she buys a frozen steak, and goes running for the shelter of her mother's little helper, and to help her on her way, get her through her busy day. Doctor, please, some more, please, outside the door, she took for more. What a drag it is getting old. Men just aren't the same today. I hear every mother say, they just don't appreciate that you get tired. They're so hard to satisfy. You can tranquilize your man, so go running for the shelter of a mother's little helper, and for help you through the night, help to minimize your flight. Doctor, please, some more, please, outside the door, she took for more. What a drag it is getting old. Life's just much too hard today. I hear every mother say, the pursuit of happiness just seems a bore. And if you take more of those, you will get an overdose. No more running for the shelter of a mother's little helper. They just helped you on your way through your busy dying day.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
Next hour, Jen Jafune will be joining us, our resident dietitian, licensed nutritionist. Jen joins us on the fourth Wednesday of the month now for our Food for Thought segment, and we're going to be talking about heart health and good nutrition to keep your heart healthy. So on this day, this is February 28th, on this day in 1972, U.S. President Richard Nixon ends his historic week-long visit to China, and at that time, that was a really big deal. Remember that?
Only Nixon could go to China.
There you go. On February 28th, here you go, Pete, you'll have to cue this up. So in 1983 was the final television episode of MASH. It was a 2-hour special directed by series star Alan Alda titled Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. It aired on CBS, and a record 125 million people watched that episode in the United States. So there you go. You know,
the actual full-length song of that is really dark.
Yes.
Suicide is Painless?
Yes.
That's
a
really dark theme.
Because I remember one time when I did Alan Alda as one of my famous birthdays, and I thought to myself, I should, play the theme from MASH. And I found that, and I went, oh my, that is really dark for like a morning, talk show.
Right.
So I didn't go that route.
It's amazing that music came from that song, and they
yes.
and they used it for the show too.
Yes. Yep.
When people know they could find the song because it was out.
Yep, exactly.
But that's
anyway,
now a state park.
It is?
The lot the area that they used to film the camp.
Really?
Is now a state park, and the ruins of the camp are still there, and there are plaques out there.
Where is it, Pete?
California.
Oh, it's California. I didn't know where they filmed it. Oh,
yeah,
my
the
goodness.
ruins of the camp are still there.
Well, you know what? To me, MASH it is still one of my favorite shows. And now you used to be able to find it anywhere, like as a rerun, and now not so much. I guess it outlived its, All right. And also on this day, which I thought this is interesting too, on February 28th, 1997, purchasers of cigarettes in the United States must prove they are over the age of 18. So there you go. That was what was happening on this day. Just a few things. Lots more things happen. Today is also the birth date of Bernadette Peters, actress, singer, children's book author, born on this day in 1948 in Ozone Park, Queens, New York. Bernadette Peters is 76 years old. With a career spanning more than 6 decades, Bernadette Peters has starred in musical theater, television, and film, performed in solo concerts, and released recordings. She's a critically acclaimed Broadway performer, having received 7 nominations for Tony Awards, winning 2, plus an honorary award, and 9 Drama Desk Award nominations, winning 3. 4 of the Broadway cast albums on which she has starred have won Grammy Awards. Regarded by many as the foremost interpreter of the works of Stephen Sondheim, Bernadette Peters is particularly noted for her roles on the Broadway stage, including in the musicals Mac and Mabel, Sunday in the Park with George, Song and Dance, Into the Woods, The Goodbye Girl, Annie Get Your Gun, Gypsy, A Little Night Music, Follies, and Hello Dolly. That's quite the repertoire. She has recorded 6 solo albums as well as many cast albums and performs regularly in her own solo concert act. Bernadette Peters first performed on the stage as a child actress and then a teenager in the 1960s and in film and television from the 1970s and on. She was praised for this early work and for appearances on, among other programs, The Muppet Show and The Carol Burnett Show, and for her roles in films including Silent Movie, that was back in 1976, The Jerk in 1979, Pennies from Heaven in 1981, and Annie in 1982. So happy 76th birthday to Bernadette Peters. It is also the birthday of, switching gears completely, no pun intended, Mario Andretti, race car driver born on this date in 1940 in Montona, Italy. He's 78 years old today. The end of World War II brought changes to the Andretti family because their town became a part of communist Yugoslavia. So once the family secured immigration to the United States, Mario Andretti became deeply involved in car racing. He became one of the most successful race car drivers of all time, winning multiple titles and races throughout his decades-long career. In 1994, after more than $11 million in winnings, Mario Andretti retired from Indy car racing. In the ensuing years, he's been inducted into multiple halls of fame and was named Driver of the Century by the Associated Press and Racer magazine. So I had to mention Mario Andretti's birthday because I use his name all the time when people are speeding anywhere. I'm like, hey, Mario Andretti, slow down. It's a parking lot, or slow down. It's a neighborhood, or whatever. So happy birthday to the real Mario Andretti. All right. I mentioned before that the March edition of the Voice of Experience newsletter, Senior Center Voice of Experience newsletter, is out. And I also mentioned that we have a lot of information in there on the Retire the Fire program. We also have on the front page, so I just want to spend a minute talking about this. There's an article on Hooray for Hollywood, which is a performance that the Do Re Mi Singers will be doing at the Senior Center on March 19th. I believe that's a Tuesday afternoon from 2 to 3. They have been rehearsing this program for quite a while and have performed it elsewhere, but they haven't done it at the Senior Center yet. So I went to them and asked them if they would consider doing that. They're really excited to do it. We've invited our friends from the Arbors to come and join us, so there will be some folks from the Arbors coming as well. This is a free concert performance. You do not need a ticket. You can just show up. You can bring family, friends, loved ones. I think it's just going to be a great time. They're doing songs from Carol Palmer's going to love it because they're doing songs from just about every musical you can think of. And they've been rehearsing this, and so I've been, listening to the songs. And I wanted to ask, when I was talking to Kathy Berry, the group's director, I said, "Well, tell me, some of the selections that you're doing." So she said, "Well, they're doing some music from South Pacific, from Hello Dolly, The King and I, Music Man, High Society, and Peter Pan, to name a few." But before she told me The King and I, because I love some of the music from The King and I, she told me all these other shows. And I thought, I don't want to ask because they're already doing all these other shows. I'm sure they're not. And then she mentioned, and The King and I. And I went, yay, because that's one of my favorite shows. So I was all excited about that. So that will be in March. And again, no tickets, no charge for this, folks. Just come and enjoy. I also just want to mention a couple of other things. One is that we still, believe it or not, have some, not very many, appointments for taxes through the AARP tax program. But at this point, we are booking really just early. I think we may have a couple of slots left on March 28th, and now we're into the first week in April. I know that most people would rather have their taxes done before that. But then again, we have some people that just called us to ask us if they could have their taxes done. Sure. So, when you call this late, it's a miracle that we have any slots left. And the only reason we do is because we have so many volunteers in Westfield, so many tax aid volunteers that we have extra capacity. We're very lucky in that respect. So, but please, if you are in need of having your taxes done, and you would like the AARP dedicated tax aides to do them for you, call immediately, and Fran St. Peter is doing the scheduling for us, and Fran will try to get you in. As I said, at this point, we're into early April. So know that, and don't say, no, I really wanted an appointment next week, because March is booked out. We are booked solid. It's going very well for the most part. People are pretty much following the guidelines. And I'm happy to report, Pete, that we have had some people who said they watched the segment that Dan Welsh did with Harry.
They were actually prepared?
Yeah, so they were actually prepared for it because Dan Welsh, who's the local coordinator for that program, And I did a segment on Westfield Council on Aging Presents, which we've run for the last couple of months, which Dan we talked about the specifics of the Westfield program and the protocol for what we use, but Dan also talked in general about tax returns, changes to the 2023. And we have all found that really helpful, including Gary and me as we were preparing ours, because Dan talked about the at the state tax level of the charitable contributions, and that has changed for this year. So you may be eligible for some money back if you made contributions to 501c3s. It can't be in kind. Dan pointed that out. It has to be. But, Pete, for a lot of the thing, like if I run a road race, a lot of times they'll ask, would you like to make a donation and it's for a cause, and it is a 501c3. So it's like, oh, sure. Okay. You throw in $20 or 25 or whatever, and that starts to add up. So, All right, folks, it is 7:01. Our Food for Segment Thought will be airing when we come back. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. Little Aretha Franklin, and we'll be back.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio now with Jen Jafune. Jen is a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, and does our monthly Food for Thought segment.
Good morning.
So good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I have to tell you that somebody said to me after you had been on last month, one of the seniors, it must have been somebody coming through the lunch line, the curbside lunch line, and was asking all about Charlie, my granddaughter. And I'm thinking to myself, but the way they were asking seemed like it was somebody that I should know a lot better than I did. And so I find, and Grace and this and that and your granddaughter. And I'm like, and he said, oh, well, I heard, he goes, well, I hear you talking about her. So I said, maybe Jen and I get a little carried away in talking about our granddaughters, but it was so fun.
I was telling someone my funniest experience doing public media yesterday.
Okay.
I had done, I think it was Mass Live.
Okay.
Years and years and years ago. And I ran into a mom of one of my children's friends.
Okay, yeah.
And she says, Jen. I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
She goes, I was in my bathroom.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I hear your voice in my bedroom.
Okay.
She had the TV on.
Yep.
It was a little off-putting.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, what is Jen Jafune doing in my bedroom while I'm, getting ready here?
I have the weirdest experaces sometimes with this.
Well, but I know that feeling of when you hear a voice like on television, especially on some place like Mass Appeal or Mass Live or one of those, it's some local thing.
Maybe it was
Mass Appeal.
Yeah.
So it's local, and well, even Patrick, when Patrick became the host,
right.
Periodically I'm home and it's like, okay, why is Patrick? I mean, Patrick Berry has been to my house. We're friends, but I'm like, why is Patrick here? Oh, yeah, he's on television.
Well, and when you and I
doing
talk,
his Mass Appeal. Yeah.
It doesn't feel like we're on the radio.
Right, exactly. Or on television, right, exactly. Yeah. All right, so Jen, February is Heart Month. So we have been, discussing hearts and, of course, Valentine's Day and all that other good stuff. Dr. Lovelace was on last week, and I gave him the option because we have a couple of other topics that we're trying to get to.
Right.
But I said to him, but it is Heart Month. And he said, no, we got to discuss, heart health because we have such a broad senior viewing audience. And this is so crucial to them to understand.
It is.
He kind of touched base a little bit about nutrition, but we didn't really get into that, because we just really didn't have time. He was trying to do some of the sort of anatomy and physiology and how does this relate? How does blood pressure relate to heart? That kind of stuff. And I figured that's fine because we're going to get to the nutrition piece of it with Jen. So I know you kind of want to do a bit of a deep dive into some of this. So where would you like to start?
There's so much.
That's the problem. I know.
So from my perspective, most of the people I see either are dealing with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, or a combination of both. There are a lot of other heart health issues, but they can often all be covered by dealing with blood pressure or cholesterol nutrition guidelines. So, for example, if someone came to me and said, well, I don't have my problem is congestive heart failure. Well, that's low sodium. Or I had a heart attack. Well, that's low cholesterol. So, it kind of all gets bundled into the same thing. And most of the people I see have to deal with both. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, everybody should be addressing these because, heart disease is the number one problem.
Right. And it doesn't, and I think the other thing to talk about in terms of, as you said, everybody should be addressing this, is that heart disease it's insidious. It happens over time. It's not like you suddenly wake up when you're 82 years old and you're in congestive heart failure. That didn't happen from last night to this morning. It's years of all of this stuff. So
Right. And you don't necessarily feel like your blood pressure's up, or you don't feel high cholesterol.
Right.
It's not like I twisted my ankle, I can really feel that pain.
Yes.
And years ago, they used to call high blood pressure the silent killer.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are like, I had no idea.
Right. Well, you go to the doctor and they take, your blood pressure is, 180 over, 120. It's like through the roof, and you're going, really? Oh, I feel okay.
Right.
Really? Are you sure it's that high? Take it again. I feel fine. So,
the other thing is when I talk to people, which, every day I'm talking about these things.
Yeah.
I'll have people say, well, my blood pressure was up. I'll talk to the doctor when I see them in April.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
When your blood pressure is 195 over 115,
you're not waiting until April.
And I can't seem to impress upon people that I understand how frustrating it can be to be stuck in the emergency room for 9 hours. I understand how hard it is to go to urgent care. And then maybe sometimes they say, well, after you waited 4 hours, you have to go to the emergency room.
Exactly.
But, weighing the pros and cons or them against each other, heart attack or stroke versus sitting in the waiting room for 9 hours, I would gladly wait in the waiting room for 9 hours.
Yeah. And I think people sometimes probably think too, it's like, well, if I've had this for, however long I've had it for, it hasn't killed me yet, well, that's, so I'll deal with it in 3 or 4 months when I see the doc.
So, I just tell people, don't always side on the side of caution.
Sure, of course, yeah.
And the other thing that I struggle with people is I'm on medication. It's controlled enough. And I just say, you have to back it up.
Yes.
Because eventually down the road, it's going to be 2 meds.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 meds. There's complications that can happen if you're not addressing this as a whole picture. Because you're a whole person. If you can do things like eat better, exercise, manage your stress, sleep, that's going to be as important as taking the medications.
Yep.
So,
and when you think about it, Jen, really anything that you're taking a medication for, and that includes even over the counter, a headache, stomach ache, whatever it is, if you're backing that up with other changes that you're making, you're going to be doing better. I mean, it's just solely relying on medication to take care of the problem, I think is a huge mistake and certainly not the answer.
Obviously I do.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
so
we're on the same page.
So, I was getting ready for this yesterday, and I pulled out my blood pressure information, I pulled out my cholesterol information, and I said, there's no way we can cover all of this in one session.
Yeah,
so we may want to break
we
it up.
We can do a two-parter. I'm doing a two-parter with Carol Palmer because we did her topic last month too. We barely brushed the surface, and I was like, all right, we got to do this as a two-parter. So that's fine. We can go that route.
Which do you want to talk about?
You know what? Let's go with blood pressure only because Dr. Lovelace spent a fair amount of time talking about that last week.
Okay.
I loved his analogy with the difference he was trying to explain to his patients. And, I think doctors who can really use a good analogy, it just paints a picture for people.
Plain English.
And he kind of talked about, sort of the dripping faucet as opposed to the fire hose or the garden hose with, this water rushing out. Right. And what would you rather take a drink from, kind of thing. So let's go with blood pressure.
Okay. And I didn't listen last week. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's all right.
Did he go through the classifications, how you can have pre-hypertensive?
No. And even if he did, a review is always good. Okay. So he did not, though.
I will have to read my numbers.
Okay, that's all right.
So when you get your blood pressure checked, there's 2 numbers.
Yes.
The top number is always when the heart is contracting and letting the blood go through the body.
Yep. So it's where it's doing the work. It's squeezing, doing the work.
And then the bottom number is when it's relaxing.
Right.
So most often, to me, the biggest concern is that bottom number because that's when the heart is supposed to be relaxing.
Correct.
So having that high is scary.
Yeah.
Normal blood pressure is on average 120 and less than 120, less than 80. So, if you're 119 over 70, great. But even if you're 120 over 80, I'd say you're still in the normal blood pressure range. Sometimes you'll go to the doctor and they'll say, your blood pressure is elevated. So they're not calling it high blood pressure. They're just saying it's elevated.
Yep.
I usually think of this as, I'm scared. I'm at the doctor's. I don't know what he's going to tell me.
Right.
So
the white coat, we call it the white coat syndrome, right? Where the doc somebody comes in with a white coat and takes your blood pressure, and it's already higher than it normally would be because you're nervous.
Right. And then they wait 5-10 minutes and check you again, and it's back within your normal range. So elevated is somewhere between 120 and 129 for that top number.
Okay.
And still lower than 80. So your heart is pushing a little more to get the blood out, but it's still able to relax at the end. So there's stages. So stage 1 high blood pressure is 130s to 139.
Okay.
For the top and 80 to 89 for the bottom number.
Okay.
So, you know, are you on meds at that point? I think it depends on the doctor. I'm sure there's some type of,
formula that they use.
That they follow.
Well, and again, you're talking about the whole body. So you're looking at, well, what else is going on here in terms of whether or not they're going to put you, the doc's going to put you on a medication.
If you have diabetes, you're already on meds at that point.
Yeah.
Stage 2 is the top number's over 140 or higher.
Okay.
And the bottom number is 90 or higher.
Okay.
And there is I would call it a more acute high blood pressure.
Okay.
And that's when the top number's over 180.
Yeah.
And the bottom number it could be or.
Okay.
The bottom number's over 120.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's up there.
It is. It's up there.
Yep.
And I have a lot of people who say to me, why did my kidney doctor put me on high blood pressure medication? And the issue with the kidney is going through the kidney. It's like I always describe it as a conga line. Mm-hmm. The red blood cells have to go one behind the other, behind the other, behind the other. And sometimes the heart has to really push hard to get the blood to go through there. Okay. So the kidney is a big connection to blood pressure, even though people are like, it's my heart.
Yeah.
Why is my kidney doctor involved? Okay. I have that that question come up a lot with people who don't seem to have high blood pressure, but they're put on a blood pressure med and they have diabetes.
Okay.
And that's to protect the kidney from all of this.
Okay.
All right. So when it comes to high blood pressure, the key thing is to lower the sodium intake. That makes a big difference. The asterisk next to that is only half the people are sodium sensitive, but there's no test to say that you are and I'm not. Okay. So everyone goes on a low sodium diet, and a low sodium diet is 2,000 milligrams of sodium in a day.
Okay.
All right. It can drop as low as 1,500. If congestive heart failures playing a role in the blood pressure issue. Now, people think sodium is only found in salt. Mm-hmm. There is sodium in salt. Salt is a combination of sodium and chloride. Mm-hmm. So a teaspoon of salt has about 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So if you have a teaspoon of salt added to your food, not counting any amount of sodium that's in that food, you're already over the limit. Mm-hmm. So salt plays a role, but sodium's in everything. Mm-hmm. Sodium is naturally existing on our planet. Yeah. So you will find sodium in fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. You will find sodium in meats and fish. Mm-hmm. You will find it naturally existing there. Mm-hmm. So the numbers tend to be lower, because it's just what's in nature.
Right.
I have a lot of people say, well, I can't eat celery. Celery is very high in sodium. So if you look at vegetables, the sodium content's usually about 5 milligrams in a serving. And remember, 2,000 is
I'm thinking, okay.
Celery has 35 milligrams in a
No kidding.
Stock. So who cares? Compared to 2,000, that's like a droplet in a bucket.
Okay.
So I'm like, eat celery.
Yeah,
Plus,
I like celery. I was going to say, no, don't tell me I can't have celery.
No, celery has naturally existing plant chemicals that help manage blood pressure. Okay. So why would you ever discount
take that? Okay.
So we also, I'd like to point out to people that there are a lot of additives and preservatives that have sodium in it. So it may not have salt listed in the ingredient list.
Right.
But if you see the word sodium benzate, sodium lactate, sodium alginate, that all means sodium.
Sodium anything.
If the word sodium is there,
okay,
the sodium's going to be there. So when companies manufacture foods, they have to put these in. Mm-hmm. Salt is a preservative as well.
Right.
So you can find salt in there. Once a food has to be processed like that, the sodium content's going to jump.
Right.
So remember our little poor celery stock at 35.
Yeah.
Now you have, let's say, a can of soup.
Right.
Where half a can is a serving and the sodium content is 780.
Right. And I think that's the other thing. I'm glad you brought up the serving size, because I think that's the other thing that people, you look at the package and it says, here's your sodium content, or any content, whether it's sugar, whatever it is. you have to go back and look at what is the serving size.
Right.
I mean, if it's like, chips or whatever, it's like, and they'll tell you like 10 pretzels have this. So if you're thinking the whole bag is that,
exactly.
No.
Exactly. So if
you need to
have
pay
the
attention.
whole can of, say, Campbell's soup,
now
you're having 1,500 milligrams of sodium.
So you're done. That's your sodium.
You're basically done for the day.
That's
Doesn't count those crackers you want to throw in.
Right, exactly.
The other thing I like to point out to people is some foods don't taste salty but can have sodium in them.
Sure.
People look at me like I have 3 heads when I say that, but ice cream has sodium in it.
Yep.
Okay, so there's naturally existing sodium in the milk that's makes the ice cream.
Yeah.
Plus, there's an additive called sodium alginate that makes ice cream creamier.
Okay.
So, it doesn't have to taste salty to have sodium.
Right. Yep.
And then you might bring some of these products home and create food. I keep hitting the microphone, sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Create food yourself. So,
Right.
maybe you're making spaghetti and meatballs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in your meatballs, you may be adding some salt. You may be adding some breadcrumbs that have sodium
Well, that's
in
what I
it.
was going to say. I think you're probably adding things that have sodium
Yep.
in them,
and
even
then
if
you've
you're
got
not
your
adding
sauce that
Yep.
could have
Sure.
sodium.
Oh, of course.
It will have sodium
Yeah.
in it. By the time you're done processing, the sodium content can be up there.
Yeah.
So it's important to pay attention to the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
Everything that you're going to be putting on that plate.
And just certain foods are high. Like if I have this right, just correct me if I'm. Is cheese pretty high in sodium
Cheese is
content?
gonna be
Just
high in
natural,
sodium.
just regular
Well,
cheese.
because how it's made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
And the more processed and ready to eat, kind of like what we
Right.
talked about last
Yes,
time.
I was going to say we've talked about processed foods.
The higher the sodium. So recently I had a conversation with someone who's really trying hard to have breakfast. I have this conversation regularly with people. And I give a list of foods that you can make for breakfast, but sometimes people buy the convenience foods.
Yeah.
And there was a convenience item bought, over 700 milligrams of sodium in that item. Then complement that with more processed foods later in the day, it adds up super fast.
Yeah.
So people need to focus and pay attention. In general, I tell people if a single food item has more than 150 milligrams in sodium in it, you're going to have to rethink whether that's a good choice.
Yeah. You know what I find is because we eat a lot of rice in my house, and I find that a lot of the packaged rice that have the packet flavorings, I mean, you look at the sodium content, it's like through the charts.
It is. Remember that the packets don't have to be used fully.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
I mean, we can flavor our own
Yes,
stuff.
yes,
But
yeah.
I'm never going to be able to imitate what they use for, say, the rice pilaf from...
I know. It's like I wish they would just,
know.
don't just tell me the ingredients. Like, give me the proportions so I
Yes.
can make this myself.
But
yeah.
if that's a higher sodium ingredient, but the rest... Came back on. Oh. Good to know. Okay. Okay. I totally lost my train of thought. Oh, well, yes. If you have one high sodium thing at a meal, as long as the rest of your day balances out, in general, it's okay. If though you have some serious high blood pressure issues or congestive heart failure, that's not okay anymore.
Okay, so I have a question, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break just to kind of regroup. But can you, in layman's terms, explain why is it? What is it about sodium and blood pressure? Like, why does one cause a problem with the other?
Well, sodium will help you retain fluids. And it changes, I mean, this is my understanding, it changes the balance of the fluid pressure in the body. Because remember, blood is
it's
liquid.
flowing. It's
yeah.
liquid. It's supposed to be free flowing.
Right. And fluids can get between tissues. They can be between joints. They can, be retained in places. And
that it shouldn't be retained.
That it shouldn't be retained.
All right. So that's really the
that's
connection there.
Seems to be the connection.
Sodium
Yep.
helps to retain fluids. We don't want to do that.
Right. If you have let's say you eat a Chinese dinner, Chinese food dinner, we know the sodium is high because of the soy sauce and the other sauces and how it's prepared. It takes 3 days of adequate water drinking to clear that out.
No kidding.
Because what happens is, if I compare it to a sponge, if you take a brand new sponge out of a packet and you hold it under the faucet and the water's going into the sponge, it fills the sponge completely before it comes out the bottom.
Right.
So if you think of the body and it's got all this sodium, you have to fill it with water till it's saturated, and then it will release the sodium in the water. Yep.
Good analogy.
Thank you.
All right. So, Pete, can we do a music break, or do we need to? Pete, are you there?
Working on it right now.
Okay, don't worry about it.
20 seconds.
No, don't worry about it. Take another minute or so, because I'm going to switch gears.
Okay.
Because I realized this got put at the bottom of my pile, and I was saving this, Jen, for when you came. So let's have a little conversation. We're going to switch off of heart for just a minute to let everybody regroup. But February is Bake for Family Fun Month.
Oh, fun.
So February is Bake for Family Fun Month. So why not start a new tradition by bringing your family into the kitchen for some quality time together? If you follow some basic guidelines, your family will have fun bonding even if more flour ends up on the counter than in the mixing bowl. So essential preparation. And, the reason that this is so cool is I did the research on this. That night, which I think was a Friday night, Grace said to Charlie, we're going to bake cookies tonight. Let's do that. And she actually did pretty much everything that this said to do, because it's not her first rodeo of cooking for children. All right, so essential preparation. So first of all, read the recipe ahead of time and make sure that it's child-friendly. Note how long each step will take, and then add in some extra time to explain the recipe, directions, and provide guidance while preparing the recipe. So that's the first step. Ingredients and equipment. Gather all the ingredients and equipment needed to make the recipe. For the best experience when baking with children, don't substitute. Okay, whoever is here, we're hearing you. For the best experience when baking with children, don't substitute ingredients or use different equipment than specified in the recipe. Recipe instructions. Read the recipe with your family and assign each member at least one task. Even if the adults end up doing most of the work, if each child is assigned to ensure a task is completed, the child will feel involved. So obviously this is age appropriate. The younger the child, it may be that you're measuring something and they're taking that and dumping it in the bowl,
right.
That kind of thing. And then clean up, and this is like a big one. So while perhaps not the most fun of the activity, it's important to include the whole family in cleaning up. To make cleanup more exciting, challenge your family to finish cleaning before your tasty recipe is ready to eat. So that would work. Now,
my granddaughter loves to do dishes.
Oh, well, I'm teaching Charlie
wow.
all about that. She's in her bouncer
in
her bouncer chair in the kitchen. This is like typical when Mimsy's on, has duty. Grace calls it Mimsy's boot camp. So, because I've either got her doing stretches and exercises on the bed, or we're doing something in the kitchen. So she's very good at watching me cut up vegetables. So we do vegetables, and I always show her the tray when I'm done. This is what it looks like. All the pretty we go through the colors and all that. Okay, so now for the question of what to make. So choose something that will appeal to children and adults alike, such as a family favorite or a recipe that's been handed down through the generations. Or you can pick a new recipe that has simple instructions and involves fun shapes or a variety of colors. And there are some really wonderful, healthy cooking for children cookbooks out there to do this with. I mean, you can go to Barnes and Noble and just have a field day or go online.
Right.
But lots of different things that just for different recipes that are easy to make, kid friendly. When Grace first started learning to cook, I bought her, she was an adult, I bought her a children's recipe, like a children's cookbook recipe, because I looked at it and I said, well, first of all, she likes all these things. And second of all, It explains exactly what to do. They were fabulous.
We have one that I still use, and now I've bought it for my nephew, who I bought it for him 3 years ago. He was maybe 5 at the time, and we exchange thoughts and talk about it.
Yeah,
the other part I would throw into that is I always had everyone smell things. So I love opening vanilla and just giving it
that's a great idea.
Smell. And my kids to this day, they're all adults. They still open a vanilla and will smell it.
That's a great idea.
Smell is such a big part of food preparation and eating.
Well, it's such a big part of eating. Yeah. I mean, how, you get a cold and it's not that you've necessarily lost your appetite, but nothing really tastes great because you can't smell it.
Because you can't smell it.
Absolutely.
And so, vanilla extract, almond extract.
All the spices, fruits.
I love that part of cooking is smelling things.
All right, Peter, are we up and running here? Yes, Pete? No, Pete?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. So we're going to take a break. It is 7:30. I wasn't sure. I could see you, but I can't really see what you're doing back there. It is 7:30. We're going to take a break. If you're just joining us, my guest is Jen Jafune, a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist. We're doing our Food for Thought segment. So we're doing heart health, but we had to talk a little bit about family fun, Bake for Family Fun Month, and toward that end, the song for this segment is called "Making Pies" by Patty Griffin. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We'll be back.
It's not far, I can walk down the block, the table talk, close my eyes, make the pies all day. Plastic cap on my hair, I used to mind, now I don't care. I used to mind, now I don't care, 'cause I'm gray. Did I show you this picture of my nephew taken at his big birthday surprise at my sister's house last Sunday? This is Monday and I'm making pies. I'm making pies. Making pies. Thursday nights I go and type down the church for Father Mike. He gets me out and he ain't hard to like at all. Jesus stares at me in my chair with his big blue eyes and his honey brown hair. He's looking at me from way up there on the wall. Did I show you this picture of my sweetheart taking a flight before the war? Of the Greek and his Italian girl. One Sunday at the shore, we tied our ribbons to the fire escape. They were taken by the birds who flew home to the country as the bombs rained on the world. 5 a.m. Here I am, walking the block, the table talk. You could cry or die, or just make pies all day. I'm making pies, making pies. I'm making pies, making pies.
Moderating support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, this is Harry Rock, host of Rock on Westfield every fourth Wednesday at 8 a.m. Tune in for my view of this place I call home.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:36. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio this morning with Jen DeFune, who is doing our Food for Thought segment. Jen is a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist. And speaking of food, I just want to make one announcement before we get back to talking about good nutrition and heart health. And that is, hopefully by now most of you know that we had to suspend our meal service at the senior center. We had meals Monday, but they are suspended through the rest of this week. And that is simply a staffing issue. You know, when you have two people running the kitchen and you have one who goes on vacation and the other who ends up with a family situation that they have to attend to, you know, pretty soon you have no one in the kitchen. So it's nothing more than that. There's nothing, we're not doing away with the food program. We're not, we didn't get closed down by the inspector. It's none of that. It's just a temporary situation, so we hope to be back up and running with everything. But I also want to mention that next Tuesday is the primary election, and of course, the Senior Center is the Ward 2 polling station. So no indoor dining because we have to do that in the great room. So we will have curbside next Tuesday. And also, again, remember, and it is in the newsletter again this month, we are now doing pre-registration only for meals. So you do have to pre-register for your meals at least 24 hours in advance. So you need to sign up for them at least by noon of the day before. You can actually sign up for the current week and the following week at any time. So it's a bit confusing now, but I think where we're moving is that eventually, when you get the newsletter and you have a whole month's worth of meals, you'll be able to sign up for everything. We're not quite there yet. We have to let the staff catch up with the new technology and some of the changes that that Director Squindo is trying to make. But we're getting there. So just bear with us. But again, just wanted to make that note.
Change is hard.
Change is, it's really hard, and the older I get, the harder it becomes. And I really can appreciate and understand how difficult it can be for some of our seniors.
And whether it's technology or nutrition or anything.
Right. It doesn't have to be technology related, but anything.
Change is hard.
That's why moving is so hard. That's why downsizing and even staying where you are, but trying to get rid of some belongings. It's all change. Rearranging the furniture in your house. It's like, I don't know. I've always had the chair there.
Right.
Despite the fact that it's in everybody's way and, I'm tripping over it, but that's where it's always been.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
I'm hard to
I know.
change all that. So speaking of change, if someone is, and I'll use this term loosely, but a saltaholic, and they like their salty foods, if now the goal is to eat a lower sodium diet, which means cutting down significantly on the sodium in the individual foods you have, but also cutting it down in cooking and cutting it down at the table, it takes 3 months for your body to adapt to a low sodium intake so that food will taste good again.
Yeah.
And the key reason is your taste buds.
Yeah.
So on your tongue, you have all different kinds of taste buds, some for sweet, some for salty, some for sour. I mean, there's a whole mess of them. They're all interspersed. Although I have to say sour is more on the outside. That I learned that some time ago. But today I have infant taste buds on my tongue, adolescents, young taste buds, and senior citizen taste buds. Some of my taste buds will die today. Some will be born today.
Okay.
The lifespan is 3 months. So by the end of 3 months, you have a whole fresh new crop that are not sodium sensitive.
Really?
So
who knew?
That's why food suddenly tastes better. So I tell people who are saltaholics, if you can hold out for 3 months, suddenly things will, over that time. It's not like one day you wake up 3 months later and everything tastes better.
This tastes great.
But over the 3-month period, you will find things start to have flavor again.
Okay.
Because you're so saturated and so sodium sensitive. The majority of your tongue is like, where's my salt? Where's my sodium? You have to give it time.
It's interesting that you say that because I have for Lent in the past, which is, 7 weeks, given up sweets or whatever. And I find that, when you go back and you have a little something, it's like, whoa, that's sweet. Like it really does change. Yeah.
It's a big portion of that.
Well, it's funny, Gary and I had this discussion, my husband and I had this discussion probably within the last few weeks. And I don't remember why this got brought up, but we were talking about drinking soda, which we almost never do now. But Gary said, remember when we were kids, it was a treat to have a Coke or a root beer or whatever, and we loved it. And Gary said, well, I can't remember the last time I've had it, but he said, I can tell you that I do remember the last time I had one of those. It was so sweet. It just tasted so sweet to me. I couldn't drink it. And he said, and I kept thinking, how did I do this when I was a kid? Well, that explains why, because once you start to get away from those overly sweet things, like things taste super sweet.
Well, and as we age, we have fewer, I'm trying to think, it's fewer bitter taste buds. So things will taste sweeter.
Okay. Good to know.
And, the same holds true for diet soda. If you stop that.
I've never been a diet soda fan anyway.
I drank diet soda for many, many years.
Did you?
I quit it in 2018 and, never looked back.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be off that. I just don't like the chemicals. But
well, that was my thing. And to me, it always tasted like chemicals. So I was never a big.
I was just raised on it.
Yeah.
So,
and there we go. And I think when we come back to the discussion of heart health and sodium and cutting back and making those changes, I think that's really true. I mean, I can remember cooking with my grandmother these Hungarian recipes, which of course they didn't measure anything. It was a handful of this and a pinch of that. But, the salt was like almost like a handful of salt. I mean, it was like, a couple of handfuls of flour. But, thinking back on it, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like what the heck were we eating back then?
Yeah.
Tasted good.
Absolutely. I mean, salt is a preservative, but it also enhances flavor.
Yeah. Are there other things that people can use as like a salt replacement? What do you recommend to your patients,
a lot of
Jen?
people turn to those salt substitutes like NU, new salt, and things like that. You have to be careful. Those are potassium based.
That's what I was going to say. Like, what are those made out of?
Yeah, they're potassium.
Okay.
So before you start using something like that, you would want to check with your pharmacist or your doctor whether it's safe with the blood pressure meds you're on currently. For some, it's not.
Okay, good to know. Wow.
So, you have to be careful. There are salt-free combination herb bottles like Mrs. Dash.
Yes.
They're not potassium. They're just a bunch of herbs combined put in a shaker. So, that's available. But you can use foods that or flavors that are super high sodium because we use so little of them. So think about like Louisiana hot sauce. It's super high in sodium, but you're not having a half a cup of that. You're having like 2 or 3 drops.
Yes.
So food can still be spicy.
Yes.
And flavorful without the salt.
Right.
You can always use citrus. I'm a big citrus fan. And I find not just like lemon juice, but if you use the peel, like the
grated,
zest.
Zest,
it significantly enhances flavor. Obviously, herbs and spices. So one trick that I learned years ago with dried herbs, if you put the serving that you're about to put in your recipe on the palm of your hand and you rub your hands together and release them into whatever you're cooking, it releases the essential oils. So it will flavor the food more.
Okay.
Obviously, things like garlic and onions are ways to flavor. You can try buying lower sodium versions of the originals, but keep in mind, for example, soy sauce in a teaspoon is well over what you need for
Yes.
a day.
Yes.
Lower sodium doesn't mean low.
Yeah,
So
it
lower
just means
sodium soy
lower,
sauce means
yes.
it's a little lower.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll use when I cook. But
Yep.
yeah, I can't even the real soy sauce. I
Yeah.
can't do. It's
Yeah.
just too salty for me.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of the wording, not just look at the wording, but look at the
Right.
milligrams of
Yeah,
sodium. on
low
things.
versus lower.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I tend to make my own seasoning packets for
Mhm,
things.
mhm.
So, like, I won't buy onion soup mix. I'll make it.
Yeah.
So I can control how much salt goes
Mhm,
in there.
yep.
And I will make my own taco seasonings. I mean, these are super easy to make. And
Yes.
I just looked up recipes online.
Yeah.
And things like adobo,
Mhm.
and I mean, you can make a no salt version of that and make a big jar of it and
Yeah.
scoop it out as needed without adding all of the salt.
Yep. Yep. I think the other thing too is I have a chart that I don't know where it came somewhere along a wedding shower, which you know, I've been married over 40 years. And I think it actually came from my sister-in-law. But now with online, you can get all this stuff. But this particular, it's like two like laminated things that I have. They're kind of big, and one is a recipe. It's a measurement conversion, so it'll
Right.
tell you how many teaspoons in a blah blah blah. But on one side of it's a whole thing on spices and
use it with?
what to use it with and what to use it in. So they're all in alphabetical order, which of course I love because that's my life, alphabetical, color coded. But it's so it'll say like whatever this spice is, and then it'll it might say beef stews and on fish and on this and that. I have found that to be super helpful as I'm kind of like sometimes I'll try a recipe and my family will say, well, it's good, but it needs a little oomph. Right. And then I'm thinking, okay, so that means a spice and wait, like what am I doing here? So I found that to be really helpful. And I'm sure you can go online and
You
get
can
the same kind
get
of thing.
kind of a description of what it might taste like. I think people should be open to trying new flavors. And, just like with anything, there's going to be things you like and things you don't like.
Yeah.
I'm a big, as you know, baking show fan. And a lot of the baking shows, when they're making fancy things, they're using cardamom. I'm like, I have no idea what cardamom tastes like or anything.
don't either.
So I got a recipe and I made a cardamom thing. And my husband Joe and I are both like, it looks really pretty, but we don't like it.
Okay.
Okay,
but, yeah.
But I have now got something called, I'm going to lose it, like sumac.
Okay.
And there's something hanoush. I mean, just all kinds of different flavorings to try. And some are okay and some are not.
Yeah. Well, and again, too, with spices, you go by your sense of smell because that's one of the keys for that as well.
Right.
And I have found that there are certain spices that I'm not particularly keen on, and then others, that I try because it's in a recipe and it's like, oh, this is really good. I think I'm gonna start using this in all kinds of recipes. I mean,
Well,
you just
and
have to know
You have to try.
You just have to try.
You have
it.
to try.
Yeah.
And I know, for example, there's a genetic thing about cilantro.
Okay.
Cilantro is very flavorful. I love cilantro. My husband hates it.
I don't like it.
So I keep it on the side.
Yeah.
So, his is cilantro free, mine is cilantro
Yeah, and I
full.
think that's another good tip.
Is he one of
for
those people that say it tastes like dish soap?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah,
like
some
it
people
either.
say their receptor just says it tastes like soap.
Not a fan.
Most of my family does
not a
not
fan,
like it.
not a
So I'm
fan.
like, okay, you're all Jaffunes.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
But things like capers, super high sodium, but you don't eat spoonfuls of capers. You have like 6 or 7 dispersed in a dish.
Yeah.
Other things.
Or soy sauce.
Yeah, well,
we
did the
we
low
just
sodium.
talked about
I
soy sauce.
overdosed on the soy sauce the other day. Oh my God, I got so sick.
Yeah, it's just that's
And it takes a good 3 days to clear that out.
Yeah.
Malt vinegar is it's got a really strong taste.
Yes.
And it can add a lot of flavor with a smaller amount. It's not high sodium, it's just a very strong flavor. And when you're doing your spices and herbs, make sure they don't have the name salt in the name itself.
Right, okay.
So garlic powder over garlic salt, onion
Gotcha.
powder. But just because it doesn't have salt in the name doesn't mean it's not in the ingredients. So you'd want to double check, because I have picked up like lemon pepper before.
Yeah.
No salt in the name, but salt was the first ingredient.
Okay.
So you do have to be careful.
Yeah. So even when buying spices,
Right.
you want to
Check
check
the
the ingredients.
ingredients.
That's so weird because I would think it's a spice. It does. It's this spice. So
Right.
it's okay.
Other
Good to know.
strong flavors: sun-dried tomatoes,
Okay.
wasabi. So when you're cutting down the
wasabi.
sodium,
Yeah.
you don't have to cut out the flavor.
Yeah. Well, I think, you mentioned before we were talking about spices and you were talking about like hot sauce and things like that. I think if you like things a little spicy, definitely there are some things that you can use that, that you can avoid the whole salt thing.
Right.
So I'm not particularly a super spicy person, although I have to say my tastes have changed a little as I've gotten older. And
your taste buds are.
Yeah, exactly. And I sort of feel like, I need a little bit of a kick here. And, sometimes Gary will say to me, I don't think you're going to like this because it's spicy. And I'll take a little and I say, oh, no, that's really good. He goes, wow, I've really come a long way because I used to be like the bland queen,
I am too.
Yeah.
But I have discovered through my own recipe trying, there's a difference between spicy and flavorful and spicy hot.
Yes.
I don't like spicy hot.
Right.
But I do find that I like spicy flavorful.
I say like a little kick, like it gives it a little zing or it gives it a little kick as opposed to, I'm crying and I can't breathe.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I can't catch my breath because it's so hot. Like that's not really my thing.
The other thing I want to point out, because I know we're probably getting close.
No, we're good. We're good.
we're
We
good.
still have we blew through the break. So I think what we're going to do is just go to a few minutes before 8. Then we'll do our song break and we'll let Harry come in. So we're good.
So
Got 5
when
minutes.
people are trying to lower their sodium, it doesn't mean that you cannot use salt at all.
Okay.
When you cook, I encourage people to, first of all, any recipe I have, I instantly cut the salt in half.
Okay.
Even if I haven't made it before.
Yep.
Which, normally I don't change a recipe at all, but I will cut the salt in half.
Okay.
Whenever possible, add the salt at the end.
I was going to ask you that and I think too, like I don't know if they still do this, but in the old days, it used to be like if you're cooking pasta, it was like you need so many cups, so much water and a tablespoon of salt. And even then I thought, why do you need a tablespoon of salt? Just cook it in the water.
So I'll tell you, it does
What's the
two
deal with
things.
that?
First of all, it makes the water boil more quickly.
Okay, well, put a cover on and,
put a cover on. You
take
don't
an
need
extra
it.
minute.
It's salt's a flavor enhancer. So, like, if you ate just a strand of plain spaghetti at home and one at a restaurant, they're going to be different.
Okay.
And the reason is because they way oversalt it when they cook
See, my feeling is like I know, like if I make meatballs and spaghetti, I know what went into the spaghetti sauce and I know what went into the meatballs. And that was my thing. It's like, well, we don't need, and this was long before I really even knew anything about salt, but it's like, why do you need extra salt for that? But I do want to go back to this because I did have a question about that. Like if I'm making a stew or something like that,
Add
or
the
soup,
salt
add the salt at the end.
Right.
Because I've heard different things about that. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to cut back on the salt and half it, let's say cut it in half, how am I getting the biggest bang for my buck here? So it's added at the end.
Yep. Because it'll get absorbed in the beginning and you won't taste it and you'll add more.
Okay.
And, it's not going to work for everything. You can't add salt to a casserole at the end of cooking.
Right.
You can't add it to bread or muffins, but you can cut it down.
I think so. And I think the other thing, too, is to just be mindful because I am pretty mindful of what are the other ingredients in a recipe, especially if you're making like a soup or a stew or a casserole.
Right.
If I'm making a casserole, I'm going to top it with cheese. My thing is like, well, there's your sodium.
Right. And it's your
adding
flavor.
any sodium to that.
Yeah, it's your
flavor. Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and I think, I don't know if you tell me if you find this with your patients now, because I know back in the day when my grandparents were alive, it was like the meal came before you and you grabbed the salt shaker before you even tasted anything.
I tell people take the salt shaker off the table. I mean, I never put a salt shaker on the table.
I don't either. I don't even think to do it.
Yeah.
And neither does my family. It's so funny. So if we have company and somebody says, oh, do you have some salt and pepper? And if I'm going to put anything out, it'll just be the pepper. But I'm like, oh, yeah, somewhere. And then I'll reach for the salt shaker and there's probably like this much salt in the bottom because we just don't use it really.
I don't,
very much at all.
I'll cook with salt.
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
Yeah.
I bake bread for us and you have to use salt in that.
Yep.
But it's spread over 2 loaves.
Yep.
So it significantly decreases the sodium content. Then there are some foods I'm like, needs a little salt.
Yeah,
But rarely will I go out of my way to add a bunch of salt to something.
But I think one of the key, points that you've made, Jen, is that people can adapt to the flavor, because I do understand it. You have people that are all of a sudden saying, "Oh my God, I have to restrict my salt intake like nut." And I think at first everything tastes like cardboard. I mean, it's just flavorless. I remember my mother-in-law had to go on a salt-free diet, as much as that is even possible, and it was such a struggle, especially at the beginning. She just said everything just tastes so bland. And she was always one who cooked and baked and, was in the kitchen all the time. So that was really her joy. And it was and I found it very difficult when I was helping with, shopping for her and some recipes and things like that. She would come to visit, they would come to visit, and I'd be like, okay, so I'm going to try to find some things with,
what it comes down to is having to make your own food.
Mm-hmm. A lot of.
If you wanted a turkey sandwich, buy a turkey breast, cook it up, slice it for the week. If you want a soup, you make the soup, so you know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
Even the no salt added and the lower sodium foods, you can always do better, because they're going to have more flavor. You can have more fresh ingredients, less processed, lower sodium is what it most often comes down to.
Yeah, and which we kind of talked about when we talked about food processing and over-processed foods and super-processed food. What was it? Was that it? Ultra-processed foods and so forth. So it's really interesting. I find with both the discussions that you have with us on air and the ones that Dr. Lovelace has, so often we're coming sort of full circle of where we started. And I just want to wrap up, Jen, just by saying that, I think one of the points that you made, and I want to drive this home, and I know that when Dr. Lovelace is on the show that we do as well, is that the human body works in concert. It's like an orchestra with all the instruments, but it all has to come together. It's not, you can't compartmentalize. I'm going to deal with this. Like you were talking before about the was it the kidney and the heart, and how is it how is that related? Why am I on a blood pressure medication? My heart is because I'm having kidney stuff. Because it's all one part of the human body. It's a whole and that's why that whole concept of holistic medicine, holistic healthcare.
The key word whole.
Absolutely.
I have people who come in and say, I have to address my fill in the blank, one thing, and I will start asking questions about everything, and they're like, no, I'm here for
why are you asking
pressure.
me about that?
And I always say, I have to address you as a whole person. Your whole body has nutritional needs.
Yeah.
We can't ignore the rest of you.
Exactly. All right. So Jen DeFune, a registered dietitian, licensed nutritionist, here once a month with our Food for Thought segment. So this was kind of part one of our Heart Health one, and we focused on blood pressure this time. And next month, the focus will be on cholesterol. Is that correct? Yes. Am I correct in that? Because we really did need to break it down into a two-parter.
Yeah.
So thank you. And also just a little infomercial. Jen also runs our diabetes support group. We call it Diabetes Dialogue. And they meet on the last Tuesday of the month at 1:30 at the Westfield Senior Center. There's no charge. There are no signups. And that group is, I think, is really starting to gel, isn't it? I was leaving as they were signing in.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of enthusiasm. And I have to say, one of the things I'll end on this note is one of the gentlemen who's in the group said, and I think that he is the one who's diabetic, who has diabetes, and said, his wife couldn't be with him. She was busy doing things at home or whatever. And I just thought, isn't that great? We have a guy who came to, a support group for his own issue, even without his wife wasn't dragging him or, cajoling him or saying, okay, we'll do this together.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
And just to point out, it's not a get up and tell your story
support
group.
Right, exactly.
It is a group of people who have common issues to deal with, and it's always an educational event.
Yes, and we actually have that in the title. It's a support, and it's called Diabetes Dialogue Support and Education Group.
Yep.
And I really feel like all of our support groups have an educational component, and you're absolutely right. It's not like you have to stand up and say, "My name is so and so, and I have diabetes." All right, Jen Jafune, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next month. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. Harry Rock is up next. We're going to go out with "Achy Breaky Heart." We'll be back.
Understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, he might blow up and kill this man.
Underwriting is brought to you